Welcome back. I'm Kenny Schofield. With me, as always, is Bryce Shanka. This is the American Car Classics radio program and podcast. I'm happy that you tuned in. I'm ready for a good show. I know Bryce is. We've got a special guest coming up. His name's Chris Couch, and he's going to be joining us. And we're going to be talking this hour about his C10, 1985 C10 that he picked up from a family member out in the desert. Come to the beaches of Florida. Her name is Pearl. We're going to have a great story and go through all of that. I do want to say, Bryce, last month's show, it was good. It was about EVs. I got a lot of feedback from our listeners and viewers, and I think it was good to be able to put the show out there and do it right for the people. I think we were good on telling the story about what has happened and what maybe looks like is happening and all that stuff. So we want to go through that. I do know that up in the next show, I'm going to be talking with Rich Arbitel. We're getting into a sponsorship program with him. Yeah, he's going drag racing, ACCR style. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. I know that the show after that, we're going to be doing some Meekum auctions, some John Craman and maybe some Matt Avery in there. And we're going to be talking about what's coming up in July here in Florida. We're going to be talking about what happened in January in Kissimmee, and then we're going to talk about how the market has been holding this year as opposed to the last with our economy. So, yep. Bryce, tell me how you've been.
I've been great, man. I've been great. Just work has been super busy. It's the high time in Florida for poolside crowd. So
yeah,
I've been helping all those people out and trying to watch as much racing as I can, but it's fallen by the wayside a little bit. We had Long Beach over the weekend, which was interesting.
Another Verstappen sighting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. F1. I honestly, man, I'm just now at this point with F1, I'm just kind of waiting to see if anybody can touch Max, and it's still nobody can, and he didn't even qualify on the pole.
No, but it was Red Bull 1-2.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're just untouchable.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's kind of the story. But Long Beach was interesting. Chip Ganassi's Cadillac won without changing tires at all.
Wow.
And they kind of learned that from Porsche last year.
Wow.
Who did the same thing last year at Long Beach. It's a short race. It's the shortest IMSA race of the year. But
okay. And then in NASCAR, they were at Talladega, and they were complaining about the tire, that it was not holding up to what they wanted and needed. Just like last week, it was not doing what they wanted and needed. So there's some stuff going on with the gen package and the tires from Goodyear and what they're doing and all that too. So
yeah, I've seen some headlines about some complaints.
Yeah. Yeah, last week for sure. Not Talladega, but the week before that, I think it was Richmond for sure.
About the package.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're going to get ready for this great show. We got a lot going on. Like I said, Chris is going to come in. We're going to fill up some time talking about his beautiful little truck, Pearl, that Dolphin Auto has been able to help him get on the road, make a family heirloom out of, and hopefully take him into the future with his daughters. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back with Chris. Everybody, welcome back. I'm Kenny. This is American Car Classics and radio program. And as promised, is with me my friend, Chris Couch. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
It's good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, man. So as I talked in the intro, Chris owns a beautiful little truck, and we're going to talk about how this truck came to be his and what his whole plan is and everything else. I think it'll be fun and interesting to just do this. We are Switching. Ha. Hey, so yeah, so real quick, I wanted to get in and talk a little bit about last month's show. Bryce, that was a good show. I think we did a lot of stuff on EVs. And
yeah, and then of course, as soon as we do a whole show dedicated to EVs, then the following 2 weeks there was just headline after headline after headline. But what can you do about that?
And headlines as in plant shutdowns and layoff stuff and production levels and costs and stuff. And we're already into the second quarter of the year. So after first year or end of year stuff came out number wise, you'd think that first quarter would be on that and they'd try to focus on what was coming up as future. But it really seems like there's some things that are happening that people are realizing. And Chris, you just bought a new car.
Yes.
Totally goes on this because you were narrowed down to 2 cars.
Yeah, so it was a car for my wife. She was trading in her car, and she was looking for something with 4 doors for our children. So we had narrowed it down to an Alfa Romeo Giulia, or we were going to go look at a Model X. It was a used, I think, a 2019 Model X. Really, what sold me on the Giulia was, one, it's a great car, and it's gas, and I know what it is. Whereas the Model X, there were so many unknowns with it. It had maybe 70,000 miles, 60,000, something like that. I don't remember. But with EVs, it doesn't really matter the mileage. It's really more about the battery cycles and things like that and the health of the battery. And that was the one thing.
You still have tires, brakes, and suspension.
Yep.
Right.
But, engine wear and tear and transmission wear and tear is not there, right?
That's correct.
But then nothing made me feel comfortable about the status of the battery. Nothing really. Granted, it still had some, several years of factory warranty on it, which, okay. But even then, I've had friends who own Teslas, and getting that maintenance scheduled is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And the other thing was we kind of opened to it simply for the fact that it would be a third vehicle. So we still had 2 gas-powered vehicles. So we didn't, if something happened with it, we could still drive around and things like that. But just simply for the price, we went with the Alpha. I think I made the right choice.
You called me on it and asked my opinion. I told you, man, I've got a customer, since he bought it, he loves it. I mean, just loves it. All-wheel drive, hooks up and goes, and it's a fun car to drive. You said 0 to 40 isn't much.
Yeah.
But once it winds up.
Yeah, from a rolling start, man, that thing goes.
Yeah.
It is really, it's a lot of fun and really very smooth.
And we know the Tesla has a lot of torque. Mm-hmm. We know that.
Yeah.
So, did you test drive the Tesla?
No, didn't even go over and look at it. We were so happy with the Alpha that there was no sense in even walking over there and driving over.
You've already named her.
The Alpha?
Yeah.
No.
What'd you call Julia?
That's the name of the brand. Yeah, it's called the Julia.
The model.
So you got to call her.
Jules, I guess.
Right,
yeah.
something. And your wife, Marcy, it was her birthday last.
Her birthday's actually, but yeah, it was actually
24th.
It was the 21st.
So that was Saturday.
So Sunday was her birthday.
Yeah.
So, and we bought it on Friday. So it was kind of a birthday present for her.
Okay. Yeah. You came by the shop on Sunday, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sunday.
So, and to pick up Pearl. And so that's when I saw the Alfa Romeo first and all that. And I asked her, had she had happy birthday sung to her. So happy birthday to you. Okay. I don't know which camera to look into. You've got 2 girls. Give them a shout out real quick.
Yeah, 3 girls. One's in the military. She's in Korea right now.
Okay.
Her name's Gianna.
Gianna, thank you very much for your service. It means a ton to me.
And she's in Korea, getting ready to go to Germany after that. And then I have 2 younger ones that are still at home, and that is Isabella and Adina.
Okay. And you were in the Air Force, so thank you for that.
Yes.
Appreciate that a ton. All right. So the reason we brought you in here was to talk about your gas-powered vehicle that is got no pollution control.
None.
Very, very, well, none now.
Yeah.
Maybe factory she had a little bit. But this is your 1985 C10 pickup truck.
Correct.
And you've named her Pearl.
Her name is Pearl, yeah.
Where'd that come from?
So we had a bird named Pearl that was just the sweetest thing, and she died untimely. And, the entire family loved her dearly. The truck was white, and I wanted to paint it Pearl, and just thought, okay, well, Pearl shall live on.
Absolutely. So, I love that. We love the story of the truck, of a car. We love going to the car shows, Tiana and I, and asking people, hey, what's her name? And a little bit about the story. And it catches people off guard sometimes. Sometimes they think, sometimes they don't have a name, but not every boat has a name. But I think a car, certainly a classic, something that you love, should have a name with that. So tell us how you
came to
own Pearl, yeah, and where we are with her.
So the short story is she was a gift. My father-in-law had her, and he gave her to me. And he owned her unknowingly for about 12 years. So it was a gift to him. So his son, my brother-in-law, gave him the truck as a gift. It was up in northern Nevada. I'm from Vegas. That's where my father-in-law is. That's where Pearl's from.
Right. Go Knights.
Yep. So go Knights, hockey time, right? So it was a gift about 12 years ago to my father-in-law, Joe. It needed a few things that were done, a little bit of work on the motor, not a big deal, but it was driven down there. So he had a friend who owned an auto shop, much like yourself, and he's like, so he took it over there. I guess they tinkered on it, messed with it. Long story short, got shoved to the back of the lot.
And it can happen.
And forgotten.
Yeah.
For over 10 years.
That's a hard one. I mean, that's a long time.
It is. It just sat there in the desert for 10 years in the back of this auto shop lot. So last year, I came to own Pearl in June of last year. So that was 23. So I want to say in November, December of 22 is when Joe found out about it. And just like, because his buddy's like, hey, do you ever going to come pick up this truck?
And he said, what?
What truck? What are you talking about? I don't even have a truck. And he's like, no, there's that white GMC that you got in the back lot. And I was like, oh, I don't even want this thing. And so he's telling me the story. I talked to my father. He's like a second father to me. I really get along with him greatly. I love the man dearly. And so we're talking one day, and he's telling me about the truck. I'm like, "What do you got, Joe?" And he's like, "It's an '85 GMC Sierra, I believe it is." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, man. That's those square bodies. What are you gonna do with it?" He's like, "I don't know. Probably sell it or something." I was like, "I'd be an interested buyer." He's like, "You want it?" I was like, "I'd love to have it." He's like, "Well, you can have it. Just arrange shipping. We'll get it set up and get it out there." I was like, "Okay." So they pulled it out from the back of the lot, and when I went out there, so I flew out to Vegas not long after that, on a vacation, see family and friends. And it was still in the back of the lot, and it had all types of parts that piled up in the back. And I got pictures of it. It was just overflowing with just random other cars' parts in the bed of the truck.
Hey, flat surface.
Yep, that's what it was. There was stuff on the hood and on the roof, and we had to move all this stuff to even open the doors. And so I opened it. It was super dusty, and it'd been there for a while. I'm like, man, I probably bit off a little more than I could chew here. I was like, oh, well. And so he's like, yeah, we're going to get up to the front, and we're going to get it running, right? We're just going to get it running, make sure it runs and drives. Okay. And that way they could drive it up on the shipping container or the flatbed. And that took a long time. So that guy worked on the truck, man, 2 or 3 months. Just to get it to run right, and not even well. Just barely run. Maybe probably the gas and all that kind of stuff he was dealing with. Carburetor, I know his carburetor was a big issue with it.
Yeah, when you got it, you were able to start it up and run it once, but then it died, and you kind of... So never really tried to start it much after that.
No. So when I got it, the carburetor was really messed up, and the choke wouldn't choke. So I had to go up there and manually close the choke plate, and then it would start up and it would run, and I would let it idle, and I'd go out there every now and then mess with it. I was like, I'm probably just gonna change the carburetor. But then as I'm letting it warm up to temperature, then white smoke just started billowing out of the exhaust. I'm like, and then it started overheating. I'm like, okay, I got blown head gaskets.
Yeah.
And this goes into how I met you, right?
Yeah. So I put an ad on Marketplace that I had some engines for sale, and you went fishing through there. And
I did. So the VIN number said it had a 305 in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm not going to waste money rebuilding a 305.
No.
And so I start fishing. I need a motor. Find you, and I think it was December. It was around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And came over. My father-in-law, Joe, was with me when we talked initially.
That's right.
That was Joe. And so you had the motor, and we talked and set up a deal to do the engine swap. And the engine swap went pretty well. Come to find out, it wasn't a 305 though.
No, ours was a 350, and yours that we pulled out was a 400 small block.
It was.
Yeah.
Yep. And, I was pretty surprised by that. I was like, man, no.
And we didn't pull yours out until we'd gone through the one that I sold you and did a lot to it.
You rebuilt it.
Seal it and all that. And then we found some bearings. We wanted to do those while we were there and what have you else. So got back together and when the other one came out, you were with our guy, Steve, or did you run the numbers, or how did you even find out it was a 400? Did you?
Yeah, I ran the numbers.
Okay.
I was here with Steve, and I was like, where's the engine at? He's over. So I just started cleaning it off.
Right.
And I was like, I'm a curious person by nature. I'm like, I wonder what these numbers are. And so I cleaned it off and I run them through Google real quick. I'm like, that's not right. Went to another website and I was like, man, 400, really?
Yeah.
That ain't right. So I went to another website. Sure enough, it was a 400.
So what's strange about that is because your father-in-law, when he owned this truck, he kept a list. I mean, he kept it.
No, that wasn't my father-in-law. That was the original owner.
That was his son.
No.
Oh,
So they didn't get it till 2011.
okay.
So the original owner from 1985 kept a very meticulous.
We don't know his name?
No, well, yes, it's in the book.
Okay.
Probably well passed on by now.
Really?
Yeah. So the truck was.
I almost want to look him up and see if there's something we can find there or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah. But he kept you've got the original.
Yeah, I've got the original. It came with the original owner's manual, which I find, the history of this truck, to have something original from it is pretty unique, I think.
Right. It's not just an owner's manual. I mean, it is an owner's manual, but in the front of it came a log sheet that you could put your service dates and all that. Most people didn't do that.
Nope.
They maybe keep the receipts in it if you were lucky.
Yep.
But he wrote down in pen
every oil change.
And almost 3,000 miles.
At 3,000 miles like clockwork. It was every 3,000 miles, it was oil change. And it went from 1985 until I guess that's when this gentleman sold it in 1992. And it had 58,000 miles on it, I believe, at the time. And he sold it.
And then you have one.
There's a receipt in the book from Nebraska in 1996. Where they did an oil change, and for $21. I'd love to do an oil change.
Yeah, yeah, and that was at 99,000.
99,000 miles.
So it had gone almost 50,000 miles in that time.
Yeah,
and then
somewhere after 92. Because it could have been a 400 small block in 96, but somewhere after 1992, somebody swapped the engine and transmission because it's got a 700 R4 transmission in it as well, not the turbo 350s.
Right. So here again, somebody pulled all of it out, and you wonder. I mean, there wasn't certainly I don't think you had an issue with both at that low of mileage because a 305 isn't a torquey truck, but it's a
good engine.
It's very reliable, and a 350 turbo, but. Your truck, I think, has the overdrive on the shifter.
It does.
So did it come factory with a 700 R4 behind a 305? With that highway gear, it was set up as a long bed street truck.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. I think we can find that out too through a breakdown of the VIN. But
it's got a good story because it was purchased in Victorville, California. So it's got the dealership, address in there.
Okay.
The original owner lived in Redding, California, Northern California. He had it till 92. Then it ended up in a small town outside of Barstow, California, and a farm. It was a desert farm. You guys zoomed in on the address, and it's just a desert farm. So it's got that ugly bumper on the back.
Yeah.
And obviously somebody was using it as a utility.
Some trailers of something.
Yeah, they were definitely doing some towing.
Yeah.
With it. It probably had a 400 in it at that point.
One of the things that people are going to want to know about this whole project is just how much you spent. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, we can talk about this. Right?
Part of what this is other people are thinking about doing the same thing that you did.
Yes.
And so they're curious about what the real world costs are of picking up an old C10 and
shipping across the country.
Shipping across the country if need be.
From the desert to the beach. So yeah, that's big. And let's say almost to, not to date, but let's talk about then your shipping costs. And then we'll talk about what you had in it up to Kenny, because before you met me, you started buying.
They did. Started buying a lot of parts.
Yeah. Damn Internet, Bryce. It'll get you every time. Worse than Home Shopping Network, because Home Shopping Network, you sit there and you wait until they bring it across the screen what you like. Here, it's a click. And look at the smile on his face, because
it's easy.
Guilty as hell, man. You spend Omatic 5,000 going on.
It's easy.
So what was shipping?
The shipping out there was like $1,500 to get it here from Vegas. Showed up in like 3 days, and that was in June. I want to say in June of last year it showed up.
And do we know, Kenny, what in a truck in that condition, if somebody's going to go buy it at Mecum or pick it up, through a private sale, do you have a sense of what that's going to cost?
Yeah, $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
In today's market,
that's the way it was before.
The way it was.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. When they're done, we know we've seen these. Depends on how far you go and what you go with, but knowing that he stayed with a carbureted Chevy small block, not knowing if he's going to relocate. Now this has dual fuel tanks. It is a long bed. Long beds don't do as well as short beds. in the sport truck era of what we are, they love that get her done kind of thing. But this is a C10, not a K, which is 4-wheel drive. So this is a 2-wheel drive.
It is.
So a lot of people chop that frame. They make a kit. They shorten that bed.
Yeah.
You would never do that.
No, I don't really have any desire to do that.
You don't have right. You're not out to try to make this the baddest, most valuable truck, whatever. You don't want to go upside down on it.
No.
But your girls, you said when I met you, they just want to go for a ride in the old truck.
They do. It's funny because even my oldest daughter is 19, almost 20. She's all about the old truck. But she was still here before she left the military when it showed up. And she's like, man, she was in high school, and she's like, come on, Dad. I want to drive it. I want to drive it. I want to drive it. She was wanting to drive it to school.
Right.
Yeah. So she loved it. And then the younger two, my middle one, she's 12. And she's like, "Is this going to be the truck I drive to school every day?" I'm like, "Probably. This is what you learn to drive on." So,
love that.
Yeah. So she's looking forward to it.
All right. So I have a 18-year-old. She just turned 18, Ashley, and we've got a 94 Dodge Stealth for her that we're fixing up. Okay. She loves that. My son was born in 88, and I've got an 86 C10 that I'm building, LS, whatever, for him. So I get that, and I love that the kids have some level of involvement through the years with classic. My kids have grown up listening to hair bands, so that's the era of what, and the 80s and stuff stuck with them and all this and stuff. But we do love cars with classic lines.
Yeah.
We love, you said square body. I was in my head, I said, does his father even know that square body is a term for a truck or something?
He didn't.
Right.
He didn't know.
But to us, it's how you describe it.
Yeah. He's not a big car guy. That's another story. He has a 56 Chevy 210 that he's given my wife. That was his first car. He got it when he was 16 years old.
Wow.
Still has it. It needs a lot of work. It needs an engine, transmission, the whole 9 yards. But he's already given it to my wife, so that's the next project.
Wow.
But kind of getting back into the cost of things.
Yes.
I will say I'm a very methodical type of person. I'm not
a spendthrift.
Yeah, I'm not the one to jump into things. So even before the truck showed up here, I was already kind of plotting out how I was going to approach this build.
Right.
Knowing that, I have expendable income. I also have a family to support.
Right.
You don't want it to get out of control.
Right.
You want to stay reasonable with it, even though it is something that's purely 100%. For your satisfaction.
100%.
And Bryce, we do know, because the history of our show goes back to where Dolphin Auto built that 68 C10 that had that late 80s, mid 90s fiberglass step side bed on the back. And he, I don't think, intended to go where he went with it. By the time we were done with our build, his bill was $68,000, and he bought this thing haphazardly for $30,000.
Ooh.
Right. So some can be just absolutely nuts. You're nowhere in the look is disdain. We're never going to approach right. And we have talked about more. And I do want to go ahead, I think, and pull out for a quick break and all this, get a drink of water, what we got to do. But when we come back, we'll real quick, before we jump out, let's get to where we were before you met Kenny with money. Where were you after buying a few things methodically?
So when getting the truck, I was told, I was under the impression it was a running, driving truck. So I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have to worry too much about drivetrain, but the interior was bad, and it needed air conditioning. So I was like, I need to get new carpet. I want insulation. I need seats. So I bought a lot of the interior type things, right? And wear and tear items. I bought a few of those, and I would just buy them. One paycheck, I'd buy something. It would sit in the garage. Another paycheck, buy something. It would sit in the garage. And so I had a wall full of parts. And that's how I kind of approached it. And when I realized that, okay, I need an engine, I stopped buying stuff and started saving that money, knowing that I needed an engine replacement, right? And then knowing that I was going to lower it. So I was like, okay, so I need to buy shocks, and I was going to buy springs and things of that nature, because I wasn't going to cut it, and, I wasn't doing drop spindles and, things of that nature. But so, I was okay, I'm going to buy this paycheck. All right, I'm going to buy this paycheck. Okay, this paycheck, I'm putting, $500 aside. This paycheck, I got $200. This paycheck got $300. And it just would kind of go into my pot of money for Pearl. And that way, when it came to it, I had money to pay you.
Right.
You know.
So before you met me, you have an idea of what you spent just putting stuff on the wall for future stuff to add into the car?
Not much, maybe $600, $700.
Okay.
So not a lot.
Okay. So you're into it
Because I found out quickly that the engine was more of a priority than all the other stuff that I was looking at.
So about $2,000 and you're into this thing, owning it in your driveway, and you already have some parts on the wall to put into it.
Yep.
Now you found out that it needs a drivetrain, well, some work anyway. You hadn't, did you get to drive it? Did it drive? You
Never drove it.
No, you'd start up, you'd run it, you'd idle it. But it would get hot of that.
It did. So, I mean, I have a long driveway, as you know, so I went back and forth the driveway, and that was all the driving it did. And that was just kind of make sure it went into gear and out of gear. And
right.
It didn't clunk. It didn't do anything like that.
Right.
So I was pretty happy with that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. All right. So we're going to take a quick break then, and we'll jump back, and we'll get into the juicy stuff next, the restoration stuff. Welcome back. I'm Kenny. I'm sitting here with Chris. Bryce is on the other side. This is the American Car Class Radio Program and Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. As always, take a second and say thank you to the people that support our show. That's Jasper Engines and Transmissions and O'Reilly Auto Parts. So we do appreciate them very, very much. So we were cutting off to go get a quick water drink, and Chris, we were talking about cost as to what you got the truck for, which was a steal, family friend discount. There you go. And then the shipping out and what you bought in parts. Kind of a thing that I mentioned was this one customer of Dolphin Autos had $100,000 in their truck. And you have an idea what you think your budget could go to on this truck without getting, kicked out and living in it?
I don't have a cap on it yet. I think my biggest expense coming in the future is going to be paint and body.
Yeah.
That's going to be
the single most solid cost.
Yes.
For one item.
Absolutely.
So I did sell you the motor for $500.
Yes.
I said that we would reseal it, taking the heads off, the oil pan, freeze plugs, everything, and re-seal it for all the time you cover it. Put all that back together for another $500.
Yep.
$700 to $800 to reinstall it, wire it, do all that. In the meantime, you bought an AC compressor, evaporator, condenser.
So I bought a whole new AC, like all the AC parts are brand new.
The condenser, I want to focus on this for a second because this goes into what people will experience.
I remember this.
Building this truck because we called O'Reilly's and said, hey, get us a condenser, and it came in wrong. And I said, how can that be? Because when you think about it, this truck, it didn't make sense. I said, Pete, something got boxed wrong. He sent me another one. It was wrong too. I reached out to Cold Air Distributors, which is now the Parts House. Great people out there. And they sent me one. It was wrong too. Started thinking we had a problem. I called Chris and I said, hey man, we got a problem. Came out, you looked at it, you sat there on your phone and you started reading a couple forums, and within a few minutes you said, hey man, look.
They're different now.
This is what happened.
Yep, they're different. It's a different design now, so they're smaller than the original stock ones are.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it still fits, still screwed in and did its thing.
Yep.
We just didn't know that. I had to bend the tube a little bit maybe and what, but it was, the funny thing was that we can normally find something that's superseded. Part number wears out. You go from GM, Delco, whatever it is, and you go into the aftermarket line, Dorman, Moog, stuff like that. But there should be a superseded number when something like happens, and it wasn't coming up anywhere.
No, it was only on the forums that people were talking about the differences, because the other people with C10s had swapped out theirs, and they're like, hey man, this one's way smaller than my original one.
So when you knew you were getting this truck, did you start getting into what they're all about, that there's a cult going for these C10s? Did you know that the market was as hungry for these trucks as they are?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Why'd you like the truck?
Yeah, I'm an 80s baby.
Okay.
And they were the trucks, around when I was a kid. And so I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, all right, let me see if there's any parts for these things, because I didn't know that there was such a demand for them.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, this is awesome. You could almost build a whole truck with all the parts available. LMC truck, man. They've got a lot of my money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got Jake Bragg, who owns APS. We've had him on the show before. That's Automotive Paint Supplies out of Vero Beach. He bought one. He got it pretty cheap. It's lifted. It's big. I believe it's a 4-wheel drive, so it's a K10. But he had us put a motor in it, a used motor, just like you, and did all this to it. And now he's out buying body parts. His daughter's getting married. I think he said it was the 8th or 9th of May. So congratulations to the Bragg family. And he's going to be buying body parts afterwards, and having been a former body guy and painter, whatever, he chose us, Dolphin Auto, to do this build for him. But he wants to come out and apply some Pour 15 and some sealers and some things to certain areas and stuff and all that. And I love that about it. But these trucks do have. There's a big market. Bryce, there's a big market. We got to meet them, and
the C10s.
People eating them up.
There's no trouble moving a C10.
Yeah, from early 60s. 63s, 64s, 65s, they're beautiful. The 50s are not as hot and everything else. But when you get into the early 50s, where there's the 3-window and 5-window, stuff like this, there's a big market. But the late 50s really didn't have that big stuff. But going into the early 60s, I say 62, I'm born in 66. So to me, the 66 C10 is a truck I don't own. Gentleman by the name of Dick is manager at Gerber in Miko, and he has one that's been in the barn for about 28 years. I'm trying to do something with that. And man, it's so beautiful. But these trucks are hot all the way up through early 90s now. Yep. And you've got one that's right in the middle of cherry year. Yep. It is a long bed, Chris. We don't care. It's a 2-tank. Hey, benefit.
I like the 2 tanks, honestly. They both work, which is awesome.
You bought a crossover switch.
Yeah, just a switch, and the tanks, they swap over.
Yeah,
that's great. The right fuel tank, the sending unit doesn't tell me how much gas is in it, but I figure when we pull the bed to paint it, we can swap it out at that point.
And that's the right time. We talked about this. We did talk about doing paint on it.
Yep.
Since we got the motor in, and we did the 500 purchase, the 500 reseal, the 750, we decided on labor to install it, and then a little bit extra on the evaporator and stuff like that. But in between resealing the motor, we saw that the crankshaft needed to be replaced. It had a lot of end thrust play, and it wasn't just due to the thrust bearing. We went ahead and changed out bearings while we were in there. We did a really nice crank and put that in. I think that was $370 online. We probably spent another $400 maybe on other engine parts, maybe not quite that much.
Yeah, there was a few odds and end parts, which you have to expect that, right? And then I know there was a lot. So I went ahead and brought you the suspension kit, right? I didn't like the altitude of it. So I figured we would bring it down to sea level and lower it a bit. And so you guys did that. You lowered it for me.
Yeah, for a 2-wheel drive C10, I guess it is the normal height, but to me, they're still too tall.
Yeah, for a 2-wheel drive.
Yeah. So if you're 4-wheel drive, keep it higher. You can go up.
I would go up. I mean,
would you?
No, absolutely. If I got a 4-wheel drive, I'm gonna go up a little bit. Yeah. Urban cowboy, fall guy type stuff.
I'm from the beach of Florida. I just can't do it. But you did lower it, and you didn't go stupid. You didn't do drop spindles.
No, I think it's a good lowering. There was a 2.4 I did.
Yeah, when we did it, you put new wheels and tires.
New wheels and tires, new shocks, new springs.
You went with a 20-inch wheel?
Did, yes. 20 by 8.5 in the front and 20 by 10 in the back.
And when we got done with the lowering kit, they were gonna rub on the back.
Yes.
Which I love the tire being tucked up in the wheel well. Love that the wheel well is filled up. That is such a sexy look on a truck. We've got an 88 K5 out there. John owns it. A great customer, great friend, and it's all factory. The wheels are 15-inch.
Yeah, you got it.
You almost say it looks stupid, but it's factory. This thing is an original. Other than the headlights, this thing is original, low miles. It's a beautiful truck. You almost want to go buy a bigger wheel for it.
And the wheels I specifically picked them because they have the old school look with the slots around them, but modern sized. So it just kind of brought it in, the 80s into the 2020s.
And I'm going to say you got a deal on these wheels and tires.
Yeah, I stole those.
$800.
Yeah, $800 wheels
Mounted and
tires.
balanced.
Yep.
Brought to the door.
Yep.
I mean, and there's pictures of this truck.
There was a sale on the wheels or something.
Whatever.
I don't remember how I found it.
You
but
stole them.
Buy now. Yeah.
Yeah. And they fit great. They look great. This already had front disc brakes. It has drum rear brakes.
It does, yep.
The interior, you brought a bench seat. You had pulled yours out, and this one didn't really fit great.
So the original bench seat in there that I had is the one that's in there. When I was trying to reupholster it, I could not get the bolts out. They were seized, rusted, and seized in there, and I could not get them out. So I jumped on Facebook. Somebody else had one, and so I went and bought it. And that was the one that was in here when you saw it, and it wasn't bolted down, and it just wasn't fitting right.
Right.
I was like, man, this is weird. I don't know if the brackets are weird. We could have got it to work. But eventually, while you had the truck, I was at home bored, and I ended up getting the bolts out. And so I ended up reupholstering my original stock seat, which is in there now.
Yeah.
And
it
I
looks good.
I reupholstered it myself through
feels
LMC
good.
truck.
Yeah.
Hog greens.
And how much was that?
Oh, man, I'd be lying to you if I told you. It wasn't
A few $100s.
a few $100.
Okay.
It's the velour cloth, so I like it. Looks
but
good.
sometimes people are putting seat covers over cars from AutoZone that maybe just don't fit great, and kind of deal with those seat slides and they come off and whatever. And the expense of these, they are affordable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe you need that little tool that you stretch that little staple over and have to spread and do or something. But it's not rocket science.
No, it
can be done.
It's a few hours on a Saturday yourself.
Right.
I mean, while I am mechanically inclined, there's a lot of things I don't do because I want them to look aesthetically a certain way, or
we rebuilt your steering column.
The
tilt was
it was way bad.
Yeah, they'd used themselves to pull it in and out a lot of times, and that's a common thing back in those steering columns. There's 3 bolts in there that do strip out. They're a fine thread. So you bought a kit.
Yeah, I bought the whole
$25 or
kit.
something. I mean, cheap.
Yeah, it was super cheap on LMC. It was the full rebuild kit for the steering column, which I recommend.
Yeah. Because now it's perfect. You put a little steering wheel on there. Mm-hmm. So it's not this giant hit your knees when you're turning around.
Yeah, I got a Grant steering wheel I put on there.
Okay.
And the truck had an identity crisis. It's a GMC Sierra, but it has a Chevrolet tailgate.
Yeah.
And it had bow tie wheels when I got it. And it says Silverado on the dash pad.
And that back bumper.
That back bumper is something else.
It's just big like a Kardashian. It doesn't belong.
It does not belong. But yeah, it said Chevy and Silverado. One side says High Sierra. The other side says Sierra. People. It had a life. It had a life.
Yeah. But that's great. And so now you get to you named her.
Mm-hmm.
Did I ask off air? So we tell how the name came about real quick.
I think we already did. We talk about that, or was that off air?
I think we're off air. So,
Yep.
so okay. Fill the listeners in on what we did.
So
too.
Pearl's her name. We had a family bird that was named Pearl, and she was a big sweetheart, and she had a very untimely demise. She just got sick one day and passed away, and then the entire family was very heartbroken.
A macaw, a parrot, what?
It was a little cockatiel.
Okay,
but it's the sweetest bird that you'd ever meet.
Okay,
and I mean, she could come in here, not even know you, and just start loving on you.
Okay,
so she's just a very sweet bird, and we were all heartbroken when she died. And Pearl, my truck is white, and I was like, Pearl shall live on. And she's going to be Pearl, so whenever she does get painted, it's going to be Pearl white.
Right.
And so that's how.
So we got the motor done, and you went for a test drive, and you didn't do anything hard. You were ginger, and came back and said it wasn't running right. It wasn't acting right. We didn't have a great outing. Maybe it got warm, something real fast.
The first time?
Yeah.
The first time I took it was at the gas station?
Yeah.
No, it just seemed like the idle was low. It wasn't too bad.
So I think Steve had gone home. He was doing a lot of the work on the car, and so we said next day go in there and try and tune a little bit of stuff and fatten it up a little bit. He drove it a few times. Maybe we'd do a little 1 block turnaround and come back.
Yep.
And we finished the truck up, got the AC going, got it cold.
Yep, super
Wheels
cold.
were on. Suspension. In the suspension, when the wheels were rubbing in the back, we had an issue, and we talked about rolling the sheet metal in to give you that clearance, but it didn't sit 100% level.
No, it didn't.
Back was down half an inch.
Yep.
So we talked about a remedy for this, and what we came up with was cutting all the rivets off the factory rear shackle.
Yep.
And lowering it down. We were able to do that, keep the same leaf spring and everything else, because when you lower it, you've got you take the leaf spring and put it on the bottom.
Yep, and flip it.
And there's no way to just bring it up a little bit.
Yeah, because I bought a lift block hoping that would remedy it.
But it wasn't going to be able to be applicable because it was on
because of the flip kit.
That's right.
Yep.
So we went ahead and lowered the shackle bracket and went ahead and welded that on, and then did a couple of grade 8 bolts putting through to secure that. And it's got a stance on it now that is perfect.
I think it looks great.
Perfect.
I think it looks.
Yeah.
It sits how I like it. Even with the long bed, I think it looks good.
Yeah. So got into the next phase, which was transmission didn't perform right, wasn't going well.
Well, hold on. So for people that want to know about the price.
Okay, yeah.
So Kenny treated me very well and all that. Now, a lot of the parts I did buy, but for Kenny's end of it was $4,400.
Yeah, $4,400. That was with a $750 deposit.
Yep.
Was that? So that's
because I gave you $750 in December to start.
And then you gave me another 44, or was that 44 total with the 750?
I want to say another 44 total.
Okay,
on top of this.
Right. So 40. So about $5,000, a little over $5,000, and that got the lowering kit installed. That got the engine done and installed. The AC built and installed.
Engine.
The steering column.
Yep. Headlights. I bought a
wiring harness
for the headlights. Yeah.
Right. I think we went through a couple of dimmer switches, neutral safety switch, some other little parts that we had to buy.
Yep. But that was that, and then took it home.
So you're in the truck. You're in the truck for $7,000.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yep. That's all parts and labor.
Okay. Still not upside down in the truck. Because everywhere you're going to go, I mean, it's going to roll out the door for 10 plus.
Yeah.
Something.
But yeah, so we had it home for a day, and then I was going to the store, and it started acting up. Like the AC blows cold, and it stopped blowing cold, and I was like, "That's weird." I was about a mile from the house. I was like, "Man, that's weird." So I go to turn around, and my power steering's gone. I'm like, oh man. So I get home and it not wanting to do over like 20 miles an hour, and it starts getting really hot. And I'm like, and so I just pulled in the driveway. So man, I hope I didn't blow those head gaskets. Thankfully I didn't. So Chuck came over, Chuck came over, he tested, make sure my block was all good, but it kicked all the belts. Yeah. Now all the belts came flying off, which was, V belts, and they are what they are. But but that wasn't the biggest issue. The transmission was the biggest issue. Right. So we got all the belts up. Chuck and I got the belts on. Took it to a drive, praying for the best. It wasn't the best news. Needed a new transmission. So
Chuck's awesome, though.
Oh, Chuck's great.
Big shout out to Chuck Williams, tech at Dolphin Auto, and
absolutely, Chuck's a great guy.
Over and above.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over and above.
Yeah, he came to my house on a Saturday to help me with V belts.
He's come out on a Saturday and helped me put together the chicken coop for TN and stuff. So I mean, it's. Yeah, great guy. So it was rolling the power steering belt even after that got done, even after the transmission got done, it would still roll. Yep. And there's an alignment issue. Yep. We did, Chuck was able to pull the bottom of the power steering pump out a bit, not wanting to pull the whole top or anything out because we could run into hitting the back of the water pump pulley with another belt. So there's something we've still got to look at on this. Yeah. We did talk about pulling the pulley out by itself, but we'd have that rub. So he was able to pull the bottom of the power steering pump out by putting a shim in it. It is a little bit offset, which probably needs to be corrected down the road, but it's working, driving good, not an issue. No. I believe down the road there might be some belt wear issue on that. Yeah. But way down the road and minor, but that doesn't mean we're okay with it. If something has to be done somewhere down the road to get that figured out for a better alignment. Yeah, I mean, so I have, going forward, kind of what do I have planned, right? So my wall of parts at home right now is all interior. So I have a whole new dash. I have all new AC ducts. Yeah, because you said one of them, the AC is blowing cold, but the whole piece of duct from the driver's foot pedal over to the vent is gone. It's completely gone. Right. So my leg from the knees down, I'm freezing. Right. Because it's blowing out the bottom. Yeah. You did have to put a tranny in this. Yes. So the tranny burn up. Big shout out to Tyler Wells of Bedrock Transmissions and Automotive. Yep. He's right here in Grant, and Tyler does all of Dolphin Auto's transmissions. He will help me press differential bearings and stuff when I need him to. Although we build our own rear ends most of the time, he is right there to do that specialty wise. And he was fast too. And he was done so quick. Picked it up, built it. brought it back 3 days.
Yeah, it was impressive.
$1,500.
Yep. I thought that was more than fair. And then I ended up getting
And it wasn't your first choice for transmission.
Well,
the shop.
I wouldn't say it wasn't. I wouldn't say it like that. Like I'd
Right.
really done my homework. I think I was just a little heartbroken and discouraged. And
And those
picked
are great
up.
words.
I did because I'm just so happy to get Pearl back. And
Right.
the very next day the transmission goes. So
Right.
I just did a Google search of transmission place close to the house, and there was a guy who seemed to have good Google reviews. I said, hey, here you go. Here, knock it out for me. And man, there was a lot of red flags.
As a wherewithal to buyers. This is people out looking for stuff, and this is a great tutorial that when you go out and you start looking at something, and is a Google review enough? Is it something that's going to help you get to where you need to be? And hey, you're going to go have surgery. Maybe you don't trust the first surgeon. Maybe you go talk to. You go to buy a car. Maybe you don't hit the first dealership. Maybe you venture on and look at a couple things and see what's happening. So you went to a transmission shop and you were good. You put a deposit down. He said, jump right on it. There were a couple red flags. You said you called me and we talked. Now, in all honesty, Chris was, he was not upset, but he was not overjoyed or happy that the transmission went out. In the whole story, that putting the engine on, putting his carburetor on, the TV cable had a break in the bottom of the plastic, and the tip, we didn't put it on because the cable was broken and we needed to do this stuff. And I'll say real quickly, maybe in our defense, we didn't know it was a 700R4. I thought maybe it was a drop down kit cable. It was a TV cable necessary for a 700R4, mandatory for a 700R4 in proper shift. So we went through a lot of discussion on how and what, and could something be done and whatever. And I agreed to give you the transmission that pretty much cost and not mark anything up, and be very generous on install and whatever else labor we had to do on anything else, which we did the interior, we did the install labor and 2 U-joints, I think for $250, $300.
Yeah, it was.
And then the transmission with torque converter at 15 was 100 over my cost. And I did that because I care about you. You're a great guy. Yeah. We become friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought so.
We've talked about business. We've talked about life. We've talked about family. We've talked about a lot of things. So I really appreciate that value. But now you've got the transmission done. You're into it for $9,000, thereabouts.
Yep.
You've still got exhaust to do. Which, when you were backing out of the property, out of Dolphin Auto to come over to the studio here,
put it in reverse and
this just started, Kenny. It just started.
Yeah.
And a exhaust hanger was a bolt and the nut fell off and landed in the lip of the channel of the cross support. So I was able to put that back on. Chuck walked over with his battery drill and we put that back on. And
but I mean, these things I know. That's why I'm not taking them far distances yet. Because it's set. For 11 years. It's sat in the desert in one spot for 10 years. And I've had it for a year. Well, June will be a year I've had it.
Right. Did we break the cover open on the differential? I think we did and serviced it.
I know we talked about it. I don't know.
I think we did.
Yeah, I had a question about that, actually. Coming from the racing world, you do a lot of things with the gear ratio, the final drive to get it to where you want, so that if you want it to go, or if you want top speed, you can make those adjustments. Is that something that typically happens in a restoration job, or do guys just leave it alone?
50-50. It depends on what you're going at. So now with his the 350 probably puts out, let's say it's a 280 horsepower motor. Okay. Nothing stellar, but it's got headers.
Yes.
It's got 4-barrel with aluminum intake. And
straight pipes
and straight pipe. It's fresh, so it can breathe. All the small air pump, everything else, cats, all that, whatever it had, anything is all not there. And so I'd say that you're probably getting a good 280 out of this motor, 270, somewhere in there. This motor, it came from Mike Carano, and he's the president of the Sebastian Muscle Car Club nearby. And I want to say that the one that was in Lucy, which I don't think this is, but it could be that one, was out of a 74 Vet, and maybe that's what this is, which made it a little bit stronger than what. Yeah. So now it can breathe, and we'll get that. But the 700R4 transmission gives you that overdrive, which brings your RPMs down, so you have a lot of throttle left. You can do 70 and you're doing 2,800, 2,600 RPM. Well, in Chris's truck, he has a highway gear. I'm going to bet it's a 255 small. In the C10, the 68 C10 that we did for the green one that I talked about earlier, we put a 411 and took it out and went to a 373. So that's a high gear, and that's going to give you a lot more. Plus, he had a 350 turbo transmission. So going 65 miles an hour down the road, this thing was already screaming at 3,800, 4,000 RPM.
Oh, I remember how it sounded.
Yeah.
Screaming.
Loud. Crazy. No pipe. He had me short exhaust, dual tip, right out behind the cab.
Yeah.
So much totally different than yours. But I'll bet Chris could get, on his 2 tanks of gas, I'll bet he can go 800 plus miles at 65, 75 miles an hour. He's just getting incredible low RPM straight performance with that 7R4 in the highway gear.
And that's really the build I was going for, is like almost a daily driver, nothing, crazy performance. Not to say that I won't change my mind somewhere in the future, but that's really all I wanted for. I just want something I can jump in, cruise, look cool, and drive around every day and enjoy.
You're not going to roast the tires, sit there and just do burnouts or anything else, whatever. If you are, you're going to start out in low gear.
Yep.
You're going to manually shift it. And with that small of a gear and those big of a tires, you're probably not going to get it out of that horsepower of the motor.
Yeah.
But you're not going for that.
That's not the purpose of my build.
Right. The 68 that we built, you can sit there and just romp donuts. I mean, it was just 40 miles an hour, you can hit it and just break loose. He wanted, when he built this truck, he said to me, when I pull into a car show, I want everyone to turn their heads. And they do.
Yeah. So I want people to turn their heads, but for a different reason.
Right.
Like, man, that looks cool.
Right.
Look at that.
All right. So I've got Lucy. It's a 1970 Nova, and her patina is all original. She's green, and we put a little matte clear coat on to preserve as long as we possibly can. And that'll be a project coming up down the road for Dolphin Auto and I and Tiana. But your truck, it has patina too. It's completely original paint wise.
Yep.
The bed is rough.
It was a work truck for a while.
That's right.
It was on a farm for a long time.
That's right. But it is white.
Yep.
And it's got age factors and stuff going through.
Yep.
You did talk to us about doing paint on it, and where would my budget be, Kenny, if I did?
Yep. What am I going to look like at the end of it? Because this goes back to the methodical thing, right? So I'm going to start socking away some money to do the paint.
Right.
People have asked me if I should keep the patina and just clear coat it. And I would be open to that if it was all the same shade of white. If you look at it, the door's a different shade than the front fender is different than the bed. It just, that mismatch drives me personally crazy. Some people might dig it.
No.
But it's not my thing.
For me, the minute you put those wheels on there, I said the truck has to be painted.
Yeah, it does.
You've got beautiful shoes with an ugly dress.
Yep.
I mean... Yeah. So you need to now LMC a whole bedside.
Yeah.
$400.
That's
maybe $500, but shipping. There's shipping, and that does
they do
a little bit.
They don't do free shipping. They're not Amazon.
I've got this 86 C10 was a long bed, and I happen to have a 2002 Silverado short bed, and I took my cab and put it on the Silverado, and I bought short bedsides, and I cut my floor off, and now I have 4-wheel disc brakes with rack and pinion.
That's nice.
Yeah, super cheap and easy that way. And so I got lucky and did that. And I've got a nice little short bed, 86 with, modern stuff. So you're going to keep this. You're not going to look at doing a big Mustang 2 front end and rack and pinion and all that. It's not in the budget.
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing probably going for is I want to do disc brakes in the back. Probably might do coilovers in the back just for a little bit better ride back there. I'm open to the coilovers. I haven't made up my mind.
I was going to say, I don't know that you'll really appreciate that better of a ride. The thing with the coilovers on cars is a car is heavy. A truck back end is so light. Yeah. And that natural shock does give a lot more traction in the rain. Yeah. So coilover makes it a little bit, in my opinion, not as firm on the road in the rain and stuff. And maybe daughter driving to high school and all those things, maybe that plays into something for you down the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
But discs on the back probably be a conversion to do.
Yeah. It's better stopping, better power. Those big wheels allow you to go to a much bigger brake. Mm-hmm. Stopping power is always great.
Yeah, it's always good.
I'd rather car not start than not stop.
Yeah.
So that's an important one. But paint, going back to a white with a complete pearl, or a pearl inlay on spot, or just a whole pearl?
Whole pearl.
And do you have a tint that you like?
Like a diamond. Like that diamond.
But keeping it white.
Yeah,
a white
absolutely.
pearl, right,
Yep.
right. Not going into a pink or a green or a fade or anything like that, right.
It's pearl white.
Yeah.
So it's got that nice little shimmer to it at the end. And
No extra metal flake, just a pearl.
just the pearl.
Okay.
And I think it would look nice, subtle but really cool. And
Yeah.
I kind of like that subtlety too.
What do we talk about price? Do we say something around?
So I think labor was $4,500.
Okay.
And then the paint, whatever the paint cost to throw down.
Yeah.
So
I think when we got done with it, I'd be somewhere around the 65.
I think that's what you said, $6,500.
Yeah.
So
that's bed off. Now we're not going in and pressure washing the frame and pour 15 in and all that. We're going to keep it all the same. Not doing new.
The frame, that's the beauty of a desert truck, right? So there's no rust on this thing at all. Even like you see on the truck now, that's all surface, and that's only since it's been in Florida.
Well, Dolphin Auto is on US Highway 1.
Yeah.
We are on the Indian River. We're on the river. When it rains, I'll promise you, I taste salt.
Yeah.
You are 3 miles, 2 miles.
2 miles off of it.
Yeah. So you still get the salt effect.
Yep.
And it really is real in Florida.
Yep.
It really does matter. It's not on the roads. It's coming from the ocean. We're a peninsula, and that's what happens.
But yeah, I mean, even then, we got underneath it when you had it on the lift, and there's no rust under there even after sitting out.
Right.
So it's in good shape.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I think it's a good idea to have an idea of where to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So considering everything we've just then talked about, do we have now a total figure that you're expecting at the end of it all?
Well, if we are currently at nine, right, low nines, and you're buying your interior stuff and
already have it.
So you've already bought that, and
it's already been sitting in the garage.
Would you say you're at $10,000 with the stuff you bought?
Probably $9,500.
Okay, and that's being methodical, right?
Yeah. That's new carpet, new headliners, new dash.
Right.
That's a new interior, really.
Right.
New gauge bezels.
Right. And the rest of the wiring harness is good. There's real no need to go in there and modernize it and put a spade fuse or anything else. It's all working good. Brake lights, tag lights, everything
all
else.
It works. Yep.
That's right. So we go ahead and put 65 in on paint. You're at 16,000. I'm going to bet that there's going to be a couple of other things. Bumpers.
Oh yeah, bumpers are definitely getting pretty. Well, at least the rear.
So if you were done and you spent $17,500 on this truck, and she's looking good. Tinted windows, stereo, little stuff that you're going to add, maybe some fuzzy dye stuff, whatever.
I already got a stereo and speakers too. That's sitting in the garage.
So if you're solid in at 17.5, this truck done, being a long bed, but having the twin tank, having the new transmission, my guess, I mean, you're at 20 to 23,000 easy on the truck. And if you did really right, you find a buyer, then you get into 25s and 6s.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at C10s that are for sale right now, and the market's so high on them. Yeah. And there's some out there right now that people were asking $7,000, $8,000 for that don't run.
Asking.
Right. Yep. Asking.
And you leave it long enough and they'll come. They'll come. Trust me.
Somebody will show up. So, I mean, I just think mine, and I'm not looking to sell it. I would definitely make a lot different decisions if this was a flip versus something I'm keeping.
Absolutely.
But if I was to see a C10, an 85, this is painted, right? And, okay, I got new suspension. Yeah. Because it is new shocks, new springs, new, let's say when I do the brakes, right? But new engine, new transmission, those are huge.
Yeah. And if you went different exhaust system down the road, but yours is not rusty. Mm-hmm. It does have cherries on it, cherry bombs, but...
not loud, though. It's not good.
No, it's decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... if you were saying that with your thought where you are and of course she's not for sale and it's going to become a family something, and whether your oldest daughter or one of your
somebody
daughters are going to enjoy it and have a memory built with it and all of this, then but knowing that you've looked at the market maybe more recently than I have on this specific model, the general price of one painted, done, running that looks good, they're in the 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're high.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think a lot of people, as we were talking about this before, right? There's a lot of people, my generation's coming around to us having expendable income and buying our classics.
That's right.
And
It's our time, damn it.
yeah, it's our turn, right? And so you see, and new cars, for lack of a, they're just junk.
Amen.
You know, there's people, I have friends at work that have spent $100,000 on a new truck and it's getting a transmission in a year.
Yeah.
And those are Chevys and Fords, and it's across the board.
It happens.
And they're just junk, $100,000 junk.
Yeah.
I'd much rather drop 10 grand in this and like be super happy with it.
Absolutely.
You know, than $100,000 in something new.
You don't get the seat warmer. You don't have the custom cup holder that grabs your cup no matter what size it is. And you don't get the extending pedals and the 3 dome lights that come on in LED and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
bang for bang on the buck. And when you buy a $100,000 truck and you drive it off for a year, it's 60 grand.
Yeah.
And you haven't done anything but drive it for you.
Yeah. And then what, 4 years later, it's 30 grand.
All right.
You know, and then, you know, now mine's 40 years old and it's, you know, 25,
It's only going to go up.
25 grand.
It's only going to go
And
up.
It's going to go
because
up.
there are less of them in this shape or in this condition or with this memory of it and everything else that.
And I tell you what, I can work on mine.
Yeah.
It's got a new engine. It's got a new transmission.
Yeah.
It's got ice cold AC. And my radio that I'm putting in there has Bluetooth as well.
Right.
So I can still listen to my music.
All of that, the really important stuff.
Right.
You can add that in.
That's right.
And so I have a newer truck. I have a 17 Ram. Bought it brand new. And then people ask me if I want to ever trade in. I was like, there's no reason for me to trade in. I mean, even the newer trucks that, you know, I'm a simple guy, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's got Bluetooth. I'm a pretty happy dude, man. I can play music off my phone. I'm a happy guy. You know,
I don't need a lot out of a car.
I don't.
I love Lucy. When we take her to Chattanooga every year in October, we get cold. She didn't even have a heater corner yet. I mean, I've got it. It's been sitting on the shelf. I could have put it in, 30 minutes. I just haven't done it yet. I don't need whatever. We're just happy to get in the car and go, man. It's just such a heartwarming thing when you can get in your car and she's something that you love and appreciate and you just go, you know? So,
yeah, I mean, I think some people buy new cars and trucks for the wrong reasons.
Amen.
So
You're smiling at. I've got a bug right now. I'm kind of thinking about the GR86 that Toyota just released because I've always thought about a Miata, and this looks like kind of a Miata killer, and it's got, faux back seats, so you're not getting killed on the insurance like a 2-seater would.
Okay.
But tons of torque, and Toyota is one brand where, I feel pretty confident if I'm going to pay for something new, I'm not going to go through a nightmare with it.
I look at the Toyota Camry, Bryce. They're good looking cars now.
They are.
They've got the body kit. They've got the spoiler. They look sexy. And it's a Camry.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this. I'm like, what the hell? Oh, my God.
They keep their value.
They
Toyotas
do.
in general
They
keep
do.
their value.
Mine's pushing, 170?
Yeah.
There's really nothing seriously wrong with it.
No.
It doesn't feel like an old car.
No. You'd probably get a decent trading on it.
Yeah. Well, that's part of why I'm thinking about doing the move now is it still has almost, full
value.
realistic value, even though the mileage is high. But have you seen the latest Camrys? The front end is mean looking.
Is it?
It is. It is cool.
Don't know what
They
year
definitely went to
I've
like a
been
more
buying.
aggressive.
Yeah,
They sure have.
It's definitely got a more aggressive look. But the thing is, they're all hybrids. They don't have a pure naturally
I don't
aspirated.
care. I had a customer come by today. A hybrid is great. A hybrid is great. I believe in a hybrid. All electric, I don't. I don't think that it's there where we can just have the maintenance and the value and the worth of it all. I don't believe it's there, even though their prices are starting to come down more and all this. But the hybrid is a good idea. It works. It works. It works better than DOD drop cylinder stuff that I see out on cars and stuff. And
We had a
else.
plug-in hybrid years ago. My wife and I was a plug-in hybrid Ford Fusion. Man, we loved that car. I mean, on the battery inside the city, and this is when we lived in Vegas, so it was a lot of city driving. You get like 40, 50 miles out of a charge, plug it in at night. So her first like 40 miles in the city was all electric. You know, and if she really got on it, then the engine kicked in.
That's correct.
And then you were all in gas. And then when the battery died, you were all gassed the rest of the way.
But still in gas, this little four-cylinder did start up. It did get you around, and it was still getting.
We were getting like 70 miles a gallon in the city every day.
Right.
That was a great little idea. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part of what they did is now it's all-wheel drive, but that's because they've got motors on the back wheels now.
Yeah.
And which is kind of cool. I'm sure.
I love that.
I'm sure when you step on it, it jumps.
I'm sure it does.
You know, it's not quite that Tesla launch.
But we know that the early Teslas had one motor. Then there were models that had two, and now there are models that have all four. And it's big because these models that went and had one motor, they go out. Your car, they're proprietary. They're not releasing stuff to other people. You can't buy the parts off the shelf and put it in yourself and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right. Chris,
yes.
Thanks for coming in, brother. Thanks for making the show with us and talking about your build. We'll get pictures and all that as the build goes on, and we'll update some people and maybe have you back after the end of it and see what the final thing is. So, everybody, we appreciate you tuning in and doing your thing with us. And we are the American Car Classics Radio Program. Bryce, appreciate you for all that you do. Greg Billings, take care of yourselves.
Bye.